But anyway, that's something else. I remember working for the fence company one time, and it was cold up there in the wintertime working for the fence company, especially you working with metal and all that. So everything's real cold. Even though you got gloves and stuff, that was a cold job in the winter. That was Casey Fence Company. And in the winter, when we come to work, he used to have a torch because this fence company had like, I want to say 12-foot fences around it with like razor ribbon around it and stuff like that. Anyways, he had big chains and locks that would lock the fence. So the next morning he'd come and had to unlock it. Sometimes he'd stick his key in there and it wouldn't do nothing. So he had a little torch that he had to heat up the lock just to get inside so we could go to work, you know. And boy, we all of us froze our butt off, you know, doing jobs in the winter, you know, putting up fences, digging holes, mixing concrete, and all that. And when I first worked there, they had a semi truck come once in a while with all the poles and rows of wire and different gauges of wire and all that. And people used to regret, you know, seeing that big ass truck come because you unload all that by hand, except for the poles and stuff like that. And so that was like an all day job to unload a big semi truck right there. But one time, there's a dude, he was trying to make some extra money. And actually, he's a friend of mine. And he says he's going to take off from work because he had a side fence job to do. So what he did is he came in a truck and he come in a truck and he had like a sheet wrapped around his head, you know, kind of like a foreign person, but he was the same Spanish dude that told me about the wetback name and stuff like that. But he had a sheet around his head because he ordered the stuff and he come to pick it up. And when he pulled up, I went to the driver window to, you know, tell him we're going to load his truck. And then I just knew it was him, you know. And I was laughing, but I was trying to hold it in because, you know, the boss was out there on the sidewalk and some of the workers was out there. If they would have looked at him, they would have knew it was him, you know. Anyway, we loaded this stuff for him. And he gave me the money and I took it into the office and brought his change back and all that. But man, I was laughing on and off all day about that until I got off work. Then I went to his house and he was laughing about it too. He said, well, I had to come and get the stuff. And he said, I didn't know what to do. So I had to put on some type of disguise. But that was funny. And then one night in the midwinter, we were working late. Everybody's froze. And they had this junky flatbed truck where they kept scrap wire on, like when you go sometimes you go to people's house or business and they want you to tear the old fence down and put a new fence up. And they put the scrap wire and scrap poles and stuff on this big flatbed truck. But this truck, once you get it running, and it ran for a while, it wasn't that bad, but it was just a hunk of junk basically. But when you had to try to get it started was the hard thing because you had to open a hood, pour a little gas in the carburetor, and get it going like that because it was just so old. It was really ready for the junkyard. But all they did was just put scrap on it and they'd pull it out of the fence shop. Then they would put it back in the fence shop at night. But me and this dude was, you know, trying to get it started. And this dude poured gas in it. But what he did, the filter of the breather, he didn't take the filter out. So when he poured gas in there, it got on that filter. And this dude that works that owns, well, his dad owned the fence company, and then and then well, he was part owner, I guess you could say. But anyways, he was always hyped up on shit, and always just sometimes he would just blow shit out of proportion and stuff. But anyways, we're trying to start this. We're freezing our ass off. And then that dude puts the gas in there and it catches the filter on fire. But it ain't no big deal. It catches fire, he grabs it, he has gloves on, he throws it on the ground. But he's out there on the sidewalk talking on the phone and he sees what's going on. So he comes running across the street, cussing and, all this, saying all kind of crazy stuff. We was already pissed because we're freezing. And then he's cussing him. Then I get out the truck and he's cussing me, and I'm like, man, I don't need this. And I took my gloves off. They were wet, froze. I threw my gloves at him. I said, I quit. And I just took off home, But later on, I went back to work over there, and he just said, you know, hey, I was on the rag that day, you was on the rag that day, so we could just put that behind us. And if you want to come back to work, you can come back to work. And I was like, all right, sounds good. And that's what happened right there at the fence company. And they were really okay. And his aunt, she was the bookkeeper lady there, Aunt May. And she used to always, with all the dudes that worked there, she would always like loan them money if they wanted money. And then, you wouldn't have to pay her all of it back when you got paid. She'd be the one that pays you too. And all you did was sign your check and she'd pay you cash. And then she'd have you in the office, take you in there one at a time. And then she'd be like, how much do you want to pay on that loan or whatever? And sometimes if you needed more money, you could say, uh, well, I was going to see if I can get another loan, just pay this much every week, whatever. But whatever it was, she always said yes, and she always took care of everybody. And I don't even know if they knew that she did that, but they highly respected her, So I don't think it mattered really, but she was just a legit lady, and sometimes she'd ask one of us to walk her to her car, when the shop closed or whatever. And it was cool. But now I'm going to take you over to Woodward, right off of Woodward Avenue. And over here is an apartment building that my brother-in-law and sister managed. And this apartment building is the same owner that owns Heritage Place up Grand River by Joy Road. He owns this building too. And actually, they were working for him, doing painting and stuff like that. But anyways, he gave him a job to manage this building. But this building, man, it was in shambles. Anyways, I had went and stayed with him for a while over there. And he had a 12 gauge pump shotgun. And then he had a 25 automatic that you'd have to take with you to the store. If you walk to the store wasn't far. It was on the corner. The building is like a half a block down. There's an alley. Then the building's right next to the alley. But anyways, when you go in this building, as soon as you walk in the front door, it's like a big opening in the middle, but then it's got walk-arounds into the hallway where you can go into the hallway. Well, sometimes he would sit out there, with the gun and stuff like that, and you just talking to the dudes and stuff. And he was cool with everybody and stuff like that. But anyways, when we first get over there, a lot of people was knocking on the door, a lot of women. And they would be like, hey, can you walk to the store with me and all that, And I'd be like, yeah, I can walk. And so I would take that 25 and walked to the store with him. And then one lady was telling me, she said, there used to be a dude over here, and he used to, rob people every time they'd come out the buildings and stuff like that. And he was just a violent dude, and he jumped on a lot of people, beat up a lot of people. And she said, but since y'all been here, he ain't been nowhere around. And she said, wonder, you suppose, how she say that? She was like, how do you suppose that is, or something like that. And I said, there's no telling. I said, he probably went to jail. He could have passed away, or, you know, or moved away or something like that. And then she was like, wow, I just found it odd that when y'all first came, then this guy disappeared. And I said, don't say it like that, because that sounds like you're implying something. And she was like, no, she said, it's a good thing. She said, nobody liked that guy in the neighborhood, and he always was, messing with people and robbed some people and beat up some people and all that. And I said, well, it's a good thing he ain't here now, so now you ain't got to worry about him. And she said, and he's the guy, mainly the reason we all used to come and knock on the door and ask for you to walk to the store with us, because a lot of times if you have a guy with you, wouldn't nobody, wouldn't mess with you. And that lady never knew we had a gun either, but the thing is, she was just like, she just felt safe to, have somebody walk to the store with her and stuff like that. And that's a pretty big store too. A big building over there is 4 stories high. I forget how many apartments was in there, but I wasn't digging it over there. I just didn't like the neighborhood. I didn't like the building or none of that. So I stayed there. I think I stayed there maybe, I want to say about 3 months. And then I went back over to Livernois, you know. But yeah, that was the same building that Joe Hergy had. And he had a lot of buildings, though. He was like an Italian dude. And he used to carry a suitcase around with him. He had a lot of money in that suitcase. A lot of people didn't know that, but because he had a lot of painters and, a lot of managers. And he had to go around, every Friday and pay people and stuff like that. But a lot of people didn't, know they kept a lot of money in that briefcase. If they did, they probably would have took a chance on robbing them. But he had a gun too, so I don't know how that would have came out if somebody would have tried to rob him. But as far as I know, he ain't never had no incident like that. And that dude Chief, he worked for him. Then another dude that we met, his name was Fletcher. Fletcher worked with him. Then a dude named Les worked with him. Les is the dude I told y'all in the video that was shooting at a 2-liter bottle and ended up going at a 2 liter, and it was full of water. He was shooting at it in a field, and that's the same dude that the police arrested. He had to go do about 6 months or something like that. But that dude was a character, because back in the days, a lot of people used to drive around and drink with a 40 ounce, whatever, and they'd go visit their friends and stuff. And this kind of before that, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers and stuff like that, before all that got big and stuff like that. And then in Detroit, people, the police didn't have enough time to harass people for having a beer or something like that. And you was like going over to your friend's house or something. But don't get me wrong, though. If you was drunk and they pulled you over, yeah, you're in trouble. But a lot of times, sometimes they would take people to jail. But a lot of times, even if you was well intoxicated, they would just tell you to walk home. come and get your car the best way you know how. Because a lot of times they was too busy to fool with people that was just drinking, And so them days, them days are probably over up there now. But back then, they just didn't have time to fool with people. I remember one time they pulled us over off of Trumbull and got us all out the car. My friend Mike, he was like, I know my rights. I know my rights. He was drunk. And a police officer took that big black flashlight and hit him in the stomach. He started throwing up. And right before when the police was on us, and I told him, the guy to pull over, I told him, I said, just be cool, they let us go. And then he wanted to get out the car and start yelling, I know my rights, I know my rights. And he wouldn't have got hit with the flashlight if he wouldn't have said all that. But he was drunk, so I guess the next morning I bet his stomach was hurting. But that was crazy. They told us to leave the car there and walk home. We had to go to Scripps Park, lay in the grass, watch them. They went around the block a couple times. Then after they went around the block, then they took off down Grand River. Then we all ran back to the car. Then my friend got the back of the seat out, and he reached back there and got the keys because they locked the keys in the trunk. He got the keys because we was too far. We was in my old neighborhood right there on Trumbull, but we was going back over to Livernois. And so we had to get back over there, so we got in the car and left. And but I don't know if the police circled back around to see if we got the car or whatever. But even if they did, they probably laughed about it. That's just the way they were back then. That's a long time ago. Now, I guess nowadays, if you did that, they would be on the hunt for you until they find you. But a long time ago, they just in Detroit City alone, they just had too much stuff going on to be messing with some guys that were just having some drinks. But that's crazy. And what we was actually doing is coming back from Rogers Party Store, and that's a basement store on Trumbull. And, we had a few drinks and stuff like that, and then we was headed back. And then my friend ran the back tire over the curb when he turned off of Grand River onto Trumbull. And when he did, the police was sitting right there and just made a U-turn to come after us. Then one of my friends was like the one driving. He was like, "Hey, you want me to try to give her? I'll run." I was like, "No, man, pull over." I said, "They ain't gonna do nothing." And they basically just made us walk, But other than that, if he would have tried to outrun them, we'd have all been in a war of trouble, probably. But that was it on that. I remember two of my friends from Casey Spence Company, Jaime and his friend. They one time they got off work Friday and they was talking about they was going. And these guys drink all the time, every day, all the time. And Jaime had a little car, Gilbert, and they was talking about going to Ohio. And they asked me, did I want to go with them? I was like, no, man, I ain't going all the way to Ohio. I think he had a sister. I believe he had a sister that lived somewhere in Ohio, like I think Toledo or something like that. And he was planning on going over there and staying the weekend and then coming back. Man, they get over there, end up getting put in jail. The car gets impounded. And a lot of times working for Casey Fence, if you got in trouble, he would be the man to call, and he would get you out. He would get the bondsman to get you out, or whatever he needed to do to get you, and he would get you, but you'd have to pay him back. I remember one time, Lil John, this was one of my dad's friends and Chief's friends. They called him Little Huck. And the reason they called him Little Huck, because when they used to be on the front porch drinking and stuff like that. And I think he did a little more than drink, you know what I mean? But he worked at this meat market and stuff like that. And he was real strong, but he wasn't real tall. He was kind of short, but he had muscles like the Hulk, you know. And actually, everybody started calling him the Little Huck after he did this. He would run out in front of Trumbull, run out in the street when a city bus was coming, and have his shirt off and stuff like that. And he would just flex his muscles, and acting like the Hulk. And then the bus driver would put on his brakes, look at him crazy, start shaking his head, and then he would just get out the way, and then the bus would, move on. And then, everybody just started calling him the Little Huck, because that's who he was trying to act like when the bus was coming. I was like, shit, if the bus would just keep going to run over his ass. That would be crazy. Then there was this girl that was in the neighborhood. She was walking to school one day, and this dude grabs her and drags her into an abandoned building. And luckily, she kicks him in the balls and jumps out one of the windows and gets away. And she gets home and she tells her dad what happened. So his dad gets a shotgun and he goes through the neighborhood looking for the guy. And they couldn't find the guy, but that was an incident where she was lucky that, it happened like it did, because she was able to get away from the dude, whoever he was. But that was some crazy stuff there. And she used to run around with Becky at JoJo's record shop. And she's a good girl. I've known her for a lot of years. But that's the end of this video. And our next video is going to be Chapter 2, Part 1. And so be looking out for the next video. And like I said, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. And if I get enough subscribers, when I get done with this story, I'm going to do a full circle and start it at the beginning, things that I didn't say that was pretty deep, and then go from there. But it just depends on how many subscribers I get, and it just gets more deeper, interesting, and people that like it, they need to subscribe and support the channel. Peace.